Remember when Spotify killed iTunes? When it made CDs obsolete? When it became the only place anyone listened to music? It didn't happen overnight, but it happened. On December 5th, 2025, Netflix announced something massive. They're acquiring Warner Studios and streaming business, the production engine, HBO, and Max for $72 billion in equity value. This goes far beyond licensing, far beyond a partnership. This is a full acquisition of Warner Studios and streaming business, the production engine, Max, and a massive content catalog. And if you're thinking, okay, Netflix is getting bigger, you're missing the real story. Because this isn't about getting bigger. This is about executing a playbook we've seen before, the Spotify playbook. Today, we're answering one question. Is Netflix becoming the new Spotify? And if they are, should we be excited or terrified? Let's break it down. To understand where Netflix is going, we need to understand what Spotify did to music. In the early 2000s, music was fragmented. You bought CDs. You bought songs on iTunes. Different artists were on different labels. You owned your music. Then Spotify arrived with a simple promise. Every song, everywhere, for one monthly price. Sounds great, right? It was for listeners. But here's what actually happened behind the scenes. Spotify has hundreds of millions of users globally. Once a platform gets that big, artists don't have a choice. You're either on Spotify, or you don't exist to most listeners. This is move one, platform monopoly. Next, artists went from selling albums to earning fractions of a penny per stream. The platform became more powerful than the creators. When you control distribution, you control everything. That's move two, creator dependence. Here's the crucial part. Spotify controls what you pay, not the labels. Not the artists. Spotify. They decide the subscription price. They decide how much of that goes to artists. The entire revenue model flows through one company. That's move three, price control. The transformation was complete. Artists went from selling albums to renting their music to one platform. Fans went from owning music to renting access. Spotify controlled the economics. That's the Spotify playbook. Centralize everything. Become essential. Control the economics. Now, let's talk about what Netflix just did. December 5th, 2025. Netflix announces the acquisition of Warner Brothers. Discovery. Let's be precise about what they're buying. Warner Brothers. Studios, the actual production facilities, equipment, and infrastructure. HBO and Max, the premium content brand and platform. The entire content catalog, everything from Friends to Dune to Game of Thrones. DC Entertainment, Batman, Superman, the whole DC universe. And all the subsidiary studios like New Line Cinema and Castle Rock. Total price, $72 billion in equity value, which is roughly $82.7 billion in total enterprise value. The deal closes in Q3 2026, pending regulatory approval. One critical detail. Netflix didn't buy Warner's linear TV networks, CNN, Discovery Channel. Those are being spun off into a separate, publicly traded company. So it's not Netflix bought CNN. It's Netflix acquiring the content factory and the streaming machine and leaving the legacy cable business behind. Why does that matter? Because Netflix only wanted the content creation engine and the streaming assets. They left behind the dying cable TV business. This is surgical. This is strategic. Netflix has licensed content before. They've had Friends on their platform, lost it, got it back. That's normal licensing. This is not that. With licensing, you get temporary rights. The content owner keeps control, and Netflix pays a fee every year. With acquisition, Netflix gets permanent ownership. They control everything, and it's a one-time massive payment. Think of it this way. Before, Netflix was renting products from a factory. Now they own the factory. And this is where the Spotify parallel becomes crystal clear. Just like Spotify, Netflix is now executing the exact same moves, but on a much, much bigger scale. Let's start with move one, creator dependence. By owning the Warner Brothers studios, Netflix doesn't just get a catalog, they get the talent. The directors, writers, and producers who have been working with Warner for decades are now part of the Netflix machine. If you're a top-tier creator in Hollywood, your options are shrinking. You either work for Disney, Universal, or now, this giant combined Netflix-Warner entity. Netflix is becoming the employer, not just the distributor. Now for move two, distribution monopoly. Spotify became essential because they had all the music. Netflix is now on a path to have all the shows and movies. After this deal, Netflix controls HBO's Prestige, DC's superheroes, and the entire Warner library. If other studios like Paramount or Sony start to struggle, who do you think will be there to pick up the pieces? Netflix. They're not just competing in the streaming wars anymore, they're trying to end them. By consolidating the most desirable content libraries under one roof, they become the default choice for millions of households. Your choice won't be, which service should I subscribe to? It'll be, can I afford to asterisk, not asterisk, have Netflix? This brings us to the most important question. What does this mean for us? Netflix isn't just buying up content anymore. They are making two huge strategic moves that look exactly like what Spotify did to take over the music industry. First, aggregation. Spotify's genius wasn't making music. It was becoming the one place where all music lives. Every genre, every artist, every label, all in one app. Once we all got used to finding everything in one spot, we stopped looking anywhere else. Netflix is doing the exact same thing with video. They started by licensing content from everyone. Then they made their own original shows. And now, they're buying entire studios. The goal is to make Netflix the only place you need to go for entertainment. You want to watch HBO shows? Netflix? Warner Brothers movies? Netflix? Netflix originals? Obviously Netflix. Think about it. Right now, you might have Netflix for some shows, Max for HBO, Disney Plus for Marvel, and Prime for Amazon Originals. Netflix is betting that if they have enough content, you'll just cancel everything else. Just like Spotify became the only music app you really needed, Netflix wants to be the only streaming app you need. The second move is vertical integration. Spotify doesn't just play music. They now control how you discover it through playlists and algorithms. They control the distribution on their platform, and they're even getting into content creation with Spotify Studios for podcasts. The power has shifted. It used to be artists controlled their music, labels distributed it, and stores sold it. Now, Spotify controls discovery, distribution, and increasingly, what even gets made. And now, look at Netflix. By buying a company like Warner Brothers, they would control production through the actual studios, HBO's Prestige TV, and DC's superhero franchises. They already have the distribution platform with a global reach to over 300 million subscribers. And their algorithm controls discovery, deciding what you see next. Before a deal like this, Warner Brothers would make content and then negotiate with all the different streaming services. This created competition. After a deal like this, the Netflix-owned studio makes content. It goes directly and only onto Netflix, and there is no competition. This is vertical integration, owning the entire chain from the idea in a writer's room all the way to your eyeballs. Spotify did this with music. They became the creator, distributor, and curator. Netflix is doing the exact same thing with video. So, what does this actually mean for you and your streaming future? Let's get practical. When Netflix becomes the Spotify of video, a few things will change. On the good side, it's convenient. One app for most of your content. No more jumping between services. With more content, The recommendation algorithm should get even better at finding shows you'll love. And potentially, your total cost could go down if you only paying for one or two big services instead of 5 smaller ones. But there are also some concerning aspects. With more content comes the justification for higher prices. Netflix is already one of the most expensive streaming services, and analysts are already predicting prices could push toward $30 a month or more within the next couple of years. There's also the issue of less choice. When one company owns both the content and the platform, you can't just take your business somewhere else if you're unhappy. They become your only option. And finally, content control. Netflix would get to decide what gets made, what gets promoted, and what gets buried. Without competition, there's no check on their power. Remember what happened with Spotify? Music became more convenient and accessible, for sure. But it also became less profitable for many artists, and the entire industry is now largely controlled by one company. So the big question is Netflix following the Spotify playbook? All the signs point to yes. For Spotify, we made a trade. We gave up ownership and some artist diversity, and in return, we got convenience. It looks like we're about to make the same trade with Netflix, giving up platform choice and content diversity, all for the sake of convenience. Spotify didn't kill music, but it fundamentally changed who controls it. Netflix won't kill TV and movies, but it seems to be heading in the exact same direction. And once that power shifts, it doesn't shift back. On December 5, 2025, Netflix announced a $72 billion deal to acquire Warner Bros. Studios and streaming assets. This might be the day the streaming wars started to end. The day Netflix began its transformation from just a streaming service to potentially the streaming service. They're following the Spotify playbook. First, aggregation, becoming the one-stop shop. Second, vertical integration, owning creation and distribution. Market control seems to be what's coming next. By 2027, when a deal like this would be fully integrated, we'll know if it worked. Will we all be Netflix subscribers simply because we have no other choice? Will other studios sell to the other giants, leaving us with just Netflix and Disney controlling everything we watch? I really want to know what you think. Drop a comment below. Do you want Netflix to be the Spotify of video? Are you excited for one service to rule them all? Or does this consolidation worry you? If this analysis made you think, hit that like button and subscribe, because this is just the beginning of a massive transformation in entertainment. On the next video, we'll look at how Disney is responding, because they are definitely not just sitting still. See you there?